On the news, late former President Muhammadu Buhari laid to rest in Daura. Tribute to late Buhari's legacy in Nigeria's oil sector describes him as a foundational figure. And Senate President Godswill Akpabio appeals judgment lifting suspension of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Nigeria's immediate past president, the late Muhammadu Buhari, has been laid to rest in his hometown Daura, Katsina State, after departing London in the United Kingdom around 8 a.m. on Tuesday, July 15. The body of the late president, through a Nigerian Air Force aircraft, was accompanied by Vice President Kashim Shettima, Chief of Staff to the President Femi Gbajabiamila, and other senior government officials amid heavy deployment of security operatives across Katsina State. The burial ceremony was also witnessed by family members, President Bola Tinubu, state governors, and residents of the state. Now, while the late former President Buhari is commended in some quarters, his tenure is marred by controversies across board. Now, let's discuss further. Public affairs analyst Nelson Ekujumi joins me on the news. Many thanks for your time, Mr. Ekujumi. Now, the impression of the late Buhari and his time as a civilian president, particularly, it differs across board. What's your assessment of the late former president and his administration from 2015 to 2023?
Okay, thank you very much. I think first and foremost, I want to commiserate with with former President Buhari's family, the people of Daura and the Daura Emirates, people of Katsina State, and the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I pray that may Allah grant former President Muhammadu Buhari Al-Jannat Firdaus. If you look at his administration from 2015 to 2023, you recognize that he came into governance again, just like he did when he assumed power after the military overthrow of the civilian president in 1983. He came at an auspicious occasion to save the Nigerian economy and the people from moral and economic bankruptcy. This was a man who came in when terrorists are taking over some states in Nigeria. He also came in at a time when states in Nigeria were owing backlog of salaries. And within a short time, he gave bailout funds to these states who were owing years and months of salaries to workers. And he also ensured that the Nigerian government frontally confronted the terrorists and recovered the territories of Nigeria. And you cannot also take away the fact that under President Muhammadu Buhari, the Nigerian military, most especially the Air Force, never had it so good. I remember the Chief of Air Staff coming out boldly to say before the coming into office of President Muhammadu Buhari that the Nigerian Air Force had only one functional fighter jet. But by the time President Muhammadu Buhari left office in 2023, the Nigerian Air Force had an avalanche of fighter jets that were deployed for various, security missions for the Nigerian people. As at the last count, we had over 50 brand new fighter jets. You look at the economy. President Muhammadu Buhari came into office at the time that Nigeria was an importer of everything under the sun. And by the time he left office, Nigeria became a net producer and exporter of rice, staple food in Nigeria. By the time President Muhammadu Buhari left office, Nigeria survived COVID-19 that shut down the global economy, of which even 5 years after, the global economy is still reeling from its after effect. So this was a leader, a father, a compassionate human being, a devout Muslim, a compassionate family man, and a patriot, a nationalist, a unifier, and a man of measured words, who gave his all to his fatherland. For a large chunk of President Muhammadu Buhari's life, he served Nigeria as a military general. He joined the Nigerian military in 1962, and since then he has been in public life serving the Nigerian people till 2023, when he exited political life. And even as outside political life or public life, he was still a fountain of wisdom and knowledge by those who desired. So President Muhammadu Buhari, 8 years in governance are years we can treasure. His infrastructural renewal with little resources is unmatched and unparalleled. I don't know about tomorrow. The roads, the bridges, the hospital, the railway. When President Muhammadu Buhari came into office in 2015, the last time we used railway in Nigeria was close to about 30 to 40 years. But under President Muhammadu Buhari today, Nigerians can travel by rail. Under President Muhammadu Buhari, Nigeria diversified the economy. If you remember, in 2022, the Minister for Finance came out and said the Nigerian economy was surviving only on non-oil exports because the total oil proceeds was being used to subsidize, was being used for fuel subsidy. So President Muhammadu Buhari was a man that came, that has left his footprints in the sand of time. And we cannot but continue to treasure his contributions to humanity, his selfless service to fatherland, his sincerity to humanity, and his service to his maker. We pray, I pray once again that the Almighty Allah will grant him Al-Jannat Firdaus.
Tributes there, but now, finally and very briefly, what unique qualities do you believe Buhari would be remembered for?
Buhari will be remembered as an incorruptible, disciplined, a humble man, and a selfless leader. That is his greatest quality. He's a man like the former military head of state, General Abdul Salam Abubakar, told us from London. He said they were in the same hospital receiving treatment. That President Muhammadu Buhari is a man, if he gives you his word, let heaven fall, he will not shift. He was a man of few words. He was a man of integrity. He was a man of impeccable character. He was a man that the people loved. And you can see that even in his death, people are mourning. But for some of us, we are celebrating a fulfilled life, a life lived in the service of God and man.
Sir Nelson Ekujimi, thank you very much for your contribution. We appreciate it. Well, let's go back to the story on the burial of the late former president, Muhammadu Buhari, who has been laid to rest in his home state, Daura, Katsina State.
Draped in the Nigerian flag, Buhari's body was brought down from the Nigerian Air Force aircraft by officials of the Nigerian military at the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua International Airport in Katsina State at around 2 p.m. Following a military farewell parade, the body was received by President Bola Tinubu before being transported to his residence in Daura, where a large crowd gathered for the final rites supervised by the chief imam. Earlier in the day, President Tinubu had spoken with the former president's widow, Aishat Buhari, and offered his deep condolences. In a heartfelt tribute he personally signed on Sunday evening, the president confirmed that Buhari will be accorded full state honors. President Tinubu also extended condolences to the government and people of Katsina State, as well as traditional leaders of Daura Emirate. Joy Ucheji, TV 360, Lagos.
Well, that was our correspondent Joy Uchejin giving details of the burial ceremony of the late former President Muhammadu Buhari in Daura, Katsina State. Moving on, Nigeria's Ministry of Petroleum Resources has described the former President Muhammadu Buhari as a foundational figure in the country's oil and gas industry, whose legacy continues to shape the sector. In the official condolence message issued in Abuja on Monday, the ministry expressed deep sorrow over the death of Buhari. signed by the head of Press and Public Relations Unit, Christopher Ugwe-Gbulam. On behalf of the Permanent Secretary, the ministry recalled Buhari's unique history with the petroleum sector dating back nearly 5 decades. The ministry extended its condolences to Buhari's family, the government, and the people of Nigeria, praying for divine comfort. And in Rivers State, the sole administrator, Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas, retired now, has inaugurated the newly reconstituted boards of key commissions in the state, including the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission. He charged members of the agencies to uphold discipline, competence, integrity, and a commitment to service. Speaking at the ceremony at the Government House in Port Harcourt, Ibas emphasized that the effectiveness of the commissions is vital to stabilizing governance, strengthening democratic institutions, and promoting good governance in Rivers State.
This commission plays a strategic role in discipline, training, recruiting, promoting, and the general welfare of the workforce that drives all sectors of government. It must, therefore, carry out these responsibilities with the ideals of merit, fairness, transparency, and equity. You have the unique responsibility to shape the future of the civil service, not just through hiring and promotions, but by building a culture of excellence and patriotism. The days of mediocrity and favoritism must give way to competence, integrity, and accountability. Since my appointment as administrator here in Rivers State, the civil service has embarked on various training and capacity building programs, and more are lined up in the coming weeks. I have directed the acting head of service to set up a committee to draw up extensive frameworks and guidelines for a comprehensive overhaul of the public service. We are therefore counting on this commission that I've just inaugurated to lead the reform of the civil service, to adopt digital tools in managed personnel, and to standardize practices across the ministries, departments, and agencies. I urge you to develop training systems, reward mechanisms, and appraisal methods that encourage productivity.
In other stories, Senate President Godswill Akpabio has filed an appeal seeking to overturn a federal high court judgment which has directed the Senate to lift the suspension now imposed on Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, representing Kogi Central. The notice of appeal dated July 14 was filed at the Abuja Division of the Court of Appeal. Akpabio is challenging the July 4 ruling delivered by Binta Nyako, which described the 6-month suspension as overreaching and in violation of Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan's constitutional right to representation. While the court acknowledged the Senate's constitutional authority to discipline its members, Nyako held that the length and nature of Akpoti-Uduaghan's suspension were excessive. In his 11-ground appeal, Akpabio faulted the trial court for dismissing his preliminary objection and making pronouncements that, in his view, intrude on the legislative autonomy guaranteed under the legislative houses. This year marks the 10th anniversary of a World Youth Skills Day, an initiative established by the United Nations to spotlight the vital role of equipping young people with the skills needed for decent work, entrepreneurship, and innovation. The 2025 theme, Youth Empowerment through AI and Digital Skills, draws attention to the role of technology in shaping future opportunities for young people. In this report, TV360's Okweyemi Owosheni visits a quiet hub in Ikorodu, Lagos, where a grassroots initiative is unlocking the digital potential of teenagers from low-income backgrounds, equipping them not just with skills, but with a renewed sense of purpose.
Smartan House is more than a safe space. It's a launch pad for innovation and purposeful living. As a residential hub, it offers recent secondary school graduates shelter, structure, and the tools they need to create transformative digital projects and shape their futures with intention. For the founder, Johnson Abley, fondly called Smartan Dad, Smartan House is more than a vision. It is a way of building the nation, one teenager at a time.
I love these kids. They are incredible. A lot of them came in pretty raw, and the way that they have responded to growth, the way that they've embraced the framework and the commitment, the discipline, the intellectual rigor, the stickness to, the ability to stick to, the parameters for growth, it's been incredible. I love every single one of them. They're a handful, of course. When you have a lot of young people in the same space, it can be very dramatic. But, they've learned to bond as a family. All right, and thankfully, because we also ensure that we bring in some strong moral consciousness into the work that we're doing.
Admission into Smartan House isn't automatic. Every young applicant called a Smartan must first complete an 8-week screening camp where their passion, creativity, and problem-solving skills are put to the test. Those who make it through don't just any place to stay. They gain the opportunity to build real-world digital projects that tackle big issues like misinformation, transportation, wellness, and digital literacy. The Smartans are breaking new ground in digital innovation, from using games to teach critical thinking and collaboration to exploring regenerative computing, where AI learns and adapts over time. Their project embodies Smartan House's mission: bold ideas, solving real-world problems through technology.
We have over 3.3 billion gamers in this world. And I said to myself, why has it been like that? People tend to not use gaming solutions to solve life problems, right? And how about I create that game? How about I create that platform where people they tend to solve life problems through their gaming skills?
Language can be different things to different people, right? But the idea is to portray that knowing another person's language is like how someone says it, is like having a second soul. So Frank Smith says, one language will set you in a corridor for life. 2 languages will open every door along the way. So it's beyond knowing just one language. It cuts across different things.
Operating Smartan House hasn't been without its challenges. The journey has demanded resilience and adaptability.
And it's an extraordinary project. It's very capital intensive. Change is expensive, especially you want to do this. And when you're running this as a nonprofit, not even as a social enterprise, as a nonprofit, you realize that the funding gaps become a big challenge.
World Youth Skills Day is a reminder that empowering young people with relevant skills is key to building resilient futures. The example of Smartan House shows that with the right support, young minds can become powerful agents of innovation and change. Okpeyemi Owosheni, TV316 News, Lagos.
It's time for a short break. Still to come on News Now. India orders airlines to inspect fuel switches on multiple Boeing aircraft models following disastrous air crash. Stay with us for details. Welcome back. Here's a recap of our main stories. Nigeria's immediate past president, the late Muhammadu Buhari, has been laid to rest in his hometown Daura in Katsina State after his body departed London in the United Kingdom around 8 a.m. on Tuesday, July 15. The body of the late president through a Nigerian Air Force aircraft was accompanied by Vice President Kashim Shettima, Chief of staff to the president, Femi Gbajabiamila, and other senior government officials amid heavy deployment of security operatives across Katsina State. We also told you that Nigeria's Ministry of Petroleum Resources has described former late President Muhammadu Buhari as a foundational figure in the country's oil and gas industry whose legacy continues to shape the sector. Signed by the head of Press and Public Relations Unit, Christopher Ugwebulam. On behalf of the Permanent Secretary, the ministry recalled Buhari's unique history with the petroleum sector dating back nearly 5 decades. In case you missed any of our news bulletins or for more updates, you can catch us on Limex World TV and AVO TV or log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on X, Instagram and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria. Let's switch gears to business. Victoria Akonde has the rest of the stories. Over to you, Victoria.
Thank you very much, Simi. Welcome to Business News. Now, the House of Representatives says the enactment of the Petroleum Industry Act, PIA 2021, has yielded remarkable results with more than $16 billion in investment commitments and significant improvements in oil production. The Deputy Speaker, House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, said this in Abuja at the 2025 General Counsel and Legal Advisors Forum for Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Companies in Nigeria. The forum, organized by the Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, as its theme has advancing a collaborative compliance culture in Nigeria's midstream and downstream petroleum sectors. Kalu said based on available data, Nigeria earned 15.88 trillion in revenue from crude oil and gas exports in 2024 and is projected to earn more at the end of 2025. Right now, we'll go on a short break and be back with stock market updates. Welcome back. The Nigerian equities market was closed today following a public holiday declared by the federal government in honor of the late former President Muhammadu Buhari. Now on the global scene, stock markets dipped slightly on Tuesday after recently hitting record high. Both the UK's FTSE and US Dow Jones closed in negative territory. However, their counterpart Japan's Nikkei bucked the trend, finishing the day in positive territory. That's it on both business and stock market updates. Back to you, Simi, for the rest of the news.
Thank you very much, Victoria. And on the foreign scene, Equatorial Guinea has asked the International Court of Justice, ICJ, to issue emergency orders preventing France from selling the building, which was seized after Vice President Teodoro Nguema Obiang was convicted of corruption. French authorities seized the property, which boasts a cinema, a hammam, and marble and gold water taps after convicting Obiang under a law targeting fortunes fraudulently amassed by foreign leaders. In 2021, France's top appeals court gave Obiang, the eldest son of the long-standing president of Equatorial Guinea, a 3-year suspended sentence and 30 million euros in fines. And India has ordered its airlines to examine fuel switches on several Boeing models following the deadly Air India crash in June. India's Directorate General of the Civil Aviation said it asked the airlines to investigate fuel switch locks on several Boeing models, including the 787s and 737s. The precautionary moves by India and several other countries comes despite the plane maker and the United States Federal Aviation Administration telling airlines and regulators in recent days that the fuel switch locks on Boeing jets were safe. The locks have come under scrutiny following the June 12 crash, which killed some 260 people, the worst such disaster in India. And on sports, Zambia coach Nora Huple has declared that her Copper Queens side are ready to take on any opposition, including tournament favorites Nigeria's Super Falcons, as both teams prepare to clash in the quarterfinals of the 2024 Women's Africa Cup of Nations WAFCON on Friday in Casablanca. Huple's bold statement comes after her side sealed second place in Group A with a hard-fought 1-0 win over DR Congo on Saturday, thanks to an early free kick from striker Rachel Kundananji. The result extended Zambia's unbeaten run in WAFCON group matches to 7 and set up a last 8 encounter with Group B winners Nigeria. Speaking at the post-match press conference, the Swiss tactician praised her team's tactical maturity and defensive discipline, while insisting they are unfazed by the prospect of facing the 9-time African champions. And that's it on News Now. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again next time.